Welcome back to a market update about my two favorite EV stocks, Tesla and NIO, and on top of that need to speak about XPeng. Because today XPeng just announced that they're gonna make an offering, so they are diluting their shareholders in order to raise more cash, which in my point of view is quite suspicious here. Once again, I'm skeptical of XPeng. I have no stake, no shares in XPeng. I only have two big positions in NIO and Tesla, and they make up a large part of my portfolio. But the news now with XPeng raising is kind of, putting some pressure on NIO at least here, but maybe even on Tesla, because we're always having this rumors around will they also make another offering and diluting their shareholders. And I've done a video in the past about that. I think yes, for NIO we will see this in the future again, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, NIO just guided in the recent earnings call that they're not going to do it in the foreseeable future, and I will trust them on that. I think they will not go down the road. NIO has a much leaner business model than XPeng, so they don't build their own factory right now. They don't need to spend money on capital expenditure due to the partnership with JIC. And in contrast to that, it seems that XPeng has really some short-term outlook problems there. I was rumoring about that in the past already. Then they surprised with the November deliveries, but maybe that was just a pump going into this dilution right now. So instead, let's have a look at NIO. And yes, today's XPeng news may put actually some pressure on the NIO share price because, well, NIO may want to be pressured to follow suit, but as I mentioned, it's possibly not going to happen. Instead, let's have a look at what the chart is saying here. And first of all, we had a really large correction so far. So NIO stock is down more than 20%. Well, was down almost 25%, and in my point of view this is a good and healthy correction, and it was overdue. So if we look here at the RSI, it's looking good. It's now at the lower level here on the monthly chart. On the 3 months chart, it's also coming down to lower levels, so at the bottom on the RSI, and even on the year-to-date chart it's now more on the in the middle here of the chart. So this is actually a good setup for NIO. That means that there's lots of steam that went out of the stock, and also possibly we've shaken out some of the weak hands that, well, didn't really trust in the stock and, well, got frightened and are now out of the stock. And for me, this is kind of a healthy setup now, because we have strong support at least here at $38 a share, but recently it's been trading mostly above the $40 mark here, and we can see that it's overall still in this downwards trend here, but today it seems that it's broken this resistance, and from here it could actually maybe want to seek higher targets, maybe more in towards the directions of the recent analysts upgrades. So as I'm recording this, it seems that NIO has broken this wedge pattern here, but I'm not 100% sure that it will stay like that for the entire day. I think it could actually bounce a little bit around the $42 mark before we get some news on something else that has actually to do with Tesla. Because if we look at the Tesla chart, boy, did we have a run up. I think that would be around 33%. So that's really massive since we broke through the last all-time highs, like this resistance level. And most of this actually happened on the news of the SP500 inclusion. And yes, I'm a big Tesla bull, and it's one of my biggest position at all. However, this is also a little bit frightening to see here, like how much of the S&P 500 announcement put on top of the Tesla stock here. And in my point of view, this is mostly up to speculation on what will happen when the funds can actually start buying. So maybe now some of the active traders are getting into that, and hedge funds are buying up the float of Tesla, because I mean there's lots of stockholders for Tesla like me who wouldn't sell a share in the near-term future, so we are not going to sell our stocks. So where should those index funds that need to include Tesla now actually buy the shares from in the future? And this is what's driving here this massive upside in the Tesla share price. And this is also interesting to see in relation to NIO, because remember the famous tweet by Elon Musk that 420 is better than 42. I actually made a video about that. Well, back then Tesla was actually 10x better on terms of share price comparison here, but now it's almost 14x better. than NIO in terms of the share price. And I know this is all a little bit of a game here, but it tells you of how much Tesla is running up here in comparison to NIO. And obviously NIO had this correction that I just been talking about. So for me, it was actually really nice to be invested in both companies, because although, yes, I had to go through this correction with NIO as well. And I'm personally not selling a single share. I'm just holding on to it and buying dips. But on the other hand, Tesla had this really nice upward movement, so my portfolio in general didn't go down as much. And I mentioned before several times that I don't think that the China stock delisting news is responsible for the correction in NIO. Rather, it was some profit taking by some of the funds, and possibly also some of those funds needed to allocate more to Tesla, because now they're buying up Tesla with the hopes to sell those shares to the index funds once the SP 500 inclusion is going to take place. So that will be a really interesting moment in time, both for Tesla and NIO stock. I could imagine for Tesla that we even see a squeeze of the stock, because lots of people are not going to sell to the index funds that need to buy up Tesla. So this will maybe even drive the share price even more. But then afterwards, maybe when some of those hedge funds are actually, selling off their shares to those index funds and so on, we may also see some adjustment again in the Tesla share price, and it may come down in a correction again. And that's possibly also when we see a swing back of some of those buyers into NIO stock, which could ultimately also cause this break in this downward trend here, and because that is going to happen within the next few days and weeks. And we have lots of catalysts there for NIO, for instance, with NIO Day coming up, and obviously also December delivery numbers. So overall, for me, it's interesting to watch those dynamics play out. For me, it's really not about comparing Tesla to NIO, because I'm long both stocks. I'm possibly not selling them until they reach my personal goals of what I think those companies can actually achieve in 5 to 10 years down the line. So I'm not just watching here at the sidelines, but definitely seeing how the implications are on my personal portfolio here. But besides those dynamics in the EV industry and also speculative movements and profit taking and so on, it's also interesting to see with the Nasdaq here that we are almost at I think another resistance level. So I'm actually thinking we could possibly be due for another correction. I also said before that I'm actually looking to hedge my portfolio for the middle to end of December, because I'm still quite worried about the COVID situation in the US and how's that going to play out. And also, if you look here, we had quite a run up in the recent time. So we may see a correction here, and that would definitely also have implications on NIO once again. So possibly taking NIO lower again, and as well as on Tesla, with all of those implications that are going on with the S&P 500 inclusions. So I hope this gives you a couple of views of how this could actually play out within the next couple of days and weeks. Personally, how I'm going to play this situation is that, first of all, for the overall market situation, I've been putting on some hedges. So if the market falls, I will be profiting from that in the next couple of days. For NIO and Tesla, for NIO, I've been actually buying some calls for the end of the year, because I think we actually may see this rebound. And for Tesla, I may actually, I'm not looking to sell off any shares, but if we see one of those epic squeezes with S&P 500, I may actually be looking to take some profits of some of the long-term calls that I've had that have run up more than 1,000%, and I possibly trim some of those profits of them, but not selling any of my shares there. And in general, with all of those successful trades that I'm making, if I have more cash at hand, I am looking to reinvest it more into more COVID-free stocks. So once again, here my mantra that, China has solved this COVID situation for them. There's just recent news that they are increasing their exports by 20%. So this economy is really going very well, and still in the West, I have the feeling that we are still not over it. And therefore, I'm a little bit more cautious on, for instance, German stocks, but also the Nasdaq. So I hope you enjoyed these quick views. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And then see you with more news on NIO and Tesla and other Chinese stocks in the future here.